In my last internship, I started to read people's charts. A lot of the reasons that they were coming in to the facility for treatment was like, I broke up, or my girlfriend broke up with me, or I tried to drown myself because my girlfriend broke up with me, or I'm going through a divorce. And I was like, there's definitely, like, I mean, what, 50 years after you, but like, I'm like, there's a common thread here. And I see it at my internship now, where I'm like, I was talking to some teens yesterday, and she was talking about how she went through a really bad breakup. So it's like and they're always talking about relationships and like, how can I get this person to like me? And I started to think.
These high school kids, how old are these people, or are they all ages?
The 13 to 17.
Wow.
But it happens at all ages.
Well, I work with a group called Above and Beyond in Chicago, which is an inner city community program for mainly heroin addicts, but, you know, drug and alcohol problems. And I would run a group with the residents. They don't live there. The participants, about love addiction. Everybody knew what I was talking about. You know what I mean? You say, oh, here's some people, they're hardcore.
Yeah.
They're not going to give a damn about love relationships. They all had been involved in relationships that were crucially tied up in one way or another with their drug and alcohol addiction.
Yeah. And so then I started to think, could love addiction be the underlying cause of all these other addictions? Like, I go to heroin because my girlfriend broke up with me, or what have you, and also suicidal ideation.
I agree. If you develop a skill, this is a little professional advice.
Yeah.
Working with people with relationship addictions.
Yeah.
You'll have plenty of work, and you'll be a useful citizen. And you'll be a useful citizen. Let's fantasize that there's a big community treatment program that's dealing with heroin and alcohol and OxyContin, and you had a specialty office for relationships addictions. You'd have a useful role in that place, and you would be able to help everybody else in the operation.
Yeah, well, I think it's such a crucial part. I mean, I think it is the thing. I mean, because it's like this biological need and craving.
It's as fundamental as anything else. Yeah. We talk also about sex addiction. There's a famous study a lot of people know about called Rat Park by a friend of mine, Bruce Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
And rats will learn to drink morphine solution and become dependent on it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take those same rats and you put them in Rat Park, which involves being in the park with Ferris wheel and a lot of space. Yeah. But what's critical is there are 4 rats that are male and 4 rats that are female. And they give up. There's a choice they have between drinking morphine and drinking water. They all give up the morphine and drink water. And the easiest explanation for that is they'd rather screw than have morphine, even after they've been addicted to morphine.
Yeah.
Sex is a very powerful drive. So when people fantasize, you're going in the same direction I think. People say, oh my God, heroin or OxyContin, the opioid molecule that makes, but people take painkillers all the time without getting addicted. Mm-hmm. Sex is a stronger, and love are stronger motivations than that, but obviously we also believe with them. I mean, one of the tricks I do is I ask a group of people, has anybody here taken a painkiller?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think happens when I ask that? What percentage of people raise their hands?
Not very many.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Taking a painkiller.
Oh.
And then I say, how many of you became addicted? And let's say I'm in some kind of university place. How many people raise their hand? Nobody. So I say, explain to me, if opioids are so addictive, how you've all taken opioids and you never became addicted. Just explain to me. People can't do it. And then I say, let's talk about a love relationship addiction. That's where you get involved in a relationship. You know it's not good for you. It's hurting you. And yet you can't extricate yourself. You stay in that. How many people have had that kind of an addiction? And the majority of people raise their hand.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
they don't know it's an addiction.
They don't, even though once I say, well, an addiction is if it hurts you and you can't extricate yourself. And then if you say that's an addiction and you get away from just labeling drugs, they go, well, that's an addiction I've had. Virtually everybody's had that experience.
Do you think you can be a love addict without being a sex addict? Like, are they?
Well, there are people, I don't want to disillusion you at your young age. There are people who have sexless relationships and they're fairly addicted, There are examples.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can have, maybe we can imagine old people, but they don't have to be old. They curtail every other activity. They say, oh, you can't see any of your old friends and you can't see your sister or your brother. We're going to spend all our time together. And you can do that without sex. I mean, sex is often the bonfire to start relationship addictions. But it's sort of like there's sort of two varieties of relationship addiction. There's kind of the depressant variety, where you sort of just are like thudded into each other and deadened to the world. And then there's the like cocaine version, which is more like the sex arrangement, this is so exciting. This takes my mind off all my other problems. Oh, I just want to be with this person. And they're kind of along a continuum. And, as we say this, there's probably some people say, oh, that's what I want. I want a nice, secure relationship where I don't see anybody else, where the sex is good. But get back to the first thing we spoke about, does it cause you distress and does it impair you? And if the answers to those questions are yes, we're in a little bit of a clinical situation.